We go right across to my colleague Jaiprakash, who's joining us from Sriharikota live. Jaiprakash, over to you. Of course, a lot of anticipation and excitement. What more can you tell us?
Well, ISRO is all set for its third mission to Moon, Devika. As you can see, I am right now at the Sriharikota Satish Dhawan Space Center, and the countdown which began yesterday, another 4.5 hours to go for that big launch at 2:35. The lunar vehicle Mark 3 is going to take off from this very Satish Dhawan Space Center, and right now what ISRO sources do tell us is that fueling of the launch vehicle has begun, and it at the cryogenic stage where this is the last bit where the fueling completes, and from there on the last minute checks for the launch vehicle will take place, and after that the countdown for 1 hour, and then we will see at exactly around 2:35 the Chandrayaan 3 will take off from the Sriharikota Space Center, and preparations are on. You have all the former ISRO chairman and Somnath too plonking himself here from yesterday and making all those last minute checks. Very, very important mission this is, Chandrayaan 3 for India as India advances towards moon, and a lot of lessons have been learned from the Chandrayaan 2. Remember last time around when during the Chandrayaan 2 the rocket had a hard landing leading to crashing of that rocket, and right now what we are picking from the ISRO sources is a lot of corrections have been made, be it in terms of hardware, software, algorithms have been changed, the landing legs have been more strengthened to see to it that even if there is a crash landing, the vehicle does take that impact when it lands on August 23rd at 5:45. Yes, August 23rd, 5:45 is when the Vikram lander will land on the moon. Remember, the orbiter is still there around moon. That's intact, and Vikram will connect with the orbiter. From there on, we will start seeing all those experiments unfolding. Totally about 10 payloads are there. Mainly 4 experiments are being conducted by the ISRO during this mission. One is the X-ray experiment, and the second one is the spectrometer, and these 2 experiments are being done to see to it that ISRO in fact gets those materials which are there, the organic, inorganic materials which is there on moon surface. The probe will begin. Pragyan is the rover which will be rolled into the moon when Vikram lander lands there in exactly 40 days from today. All eyes are on that clock which is ticking, and the countdown has begun for the Chandrayaan 3 to be launched in just about a couple of hours, Devika.
Absolutely, Jaiprakash. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast to bring us those exclusive visuals from Sriharikota. We appreciate it greatly, and of course, as Jaiprakash said, all eyes on the Chandrayaan mission. Let's come back to a document that has been released by ISRO, and I also have with me Tapan Mishra on the broadcast. Mr. Mishra, we will require your help to just now break it down for our viewers. The first segment that we want to talk about is, of course, how exactly will this mission take off, what will be the trajectory, and what really are the forces perhaps that are used. If we can just put the document on air. Right, so here is a document that has been released by ISRO. It says Chandrayaan 3, India's third lunar exploration mission, is ready to take off, and 4th operational mission of LVM-3 launcher. ISRO is crossing new frontiers by demonstrating soft landing on the lunar surface by its lunar module and demonstrate roving on the lunar terrain. It is expected to be supportive of ISRO's future interplanetary missions. Tapan Mishra, I believe you perhaps do have access to this document that I'm talking about, a PDF that has been released by ISRO, just explaining what the trajectory will be, sir. So first off, of course, I've put out the map of the trajectory that the Chandrayaan 3 is expected to take. It takes off from Sriharikota what really happens then, sir? If you can just explain to our viewers, because what we see on our screens is the Chandrayaan taking certain elliptical rounds around the Earth first. So this is the first phase. What really is the technology that is being used here?
Yes, see that we have actually less powerful launcher, GSLV, or take it to the straight to the moon. So what will go by because of our lack of power, we have devised a thing, an orbit. It is called the string slot mechanism. It uses moon and the Earth's gravitational force to say that increase in a large elliptical orbits. It's initially injected in an elliptical orbit by almost 170 by 36,000 kilometers. And then there is an perigee boost thrust is given, in which by almost by 5 such orbit raising, it reaches a position when the velocity is enough to escape from Earth's surface. So when you want to just leave from Earth's surface to the straight to the moon, you have to leave Earth. You have to start a speed of the order of 11 to 11.5 kilometers per second. But when you go to something around 1 lakh kilometers away, this becomes less. So you need to have a less power. Once it is done, escape Earth's velocity, then you go to the moon. And there also the moon, you get captured also in a highly elliptical orbit. And by 6 and 7 orbital maneuvers, it is again from an ellipse is shrunk and then brought to a circular orbit of 100 kilometers on the moon. Because you cannot come very close to the moon, you cannot come to very low because the moon's mass is low and the moon's the mountains can cause a destruction in the orbit and the orbit will get perturbed. So you can come to up to 100 kilometers. And once you are in that orbit, then that ejects then it ejects the lander, and the lander goes to a 30 kilometer height, and then subsequently it goes down in an automatic landing operation to a desired position. This is what the whole design is made.
So this is, Mr. Mishra, stay on with us. This is the green area that you see, this green line that you see, viewers, is what Tapan Mishra is talking about when he says it needs to come into a 100-kilometer circular lunar orbit. Let's quickly also just come to the mission sequence. I'll just go through it once again, sir. And of course, thank you so much for explaining, but let's just quickly go through it. The Earth-centric phase is the first phase, which includes the pre-launch, the launch and ascent, and the Earth-bound maneuver phase. So this right here, sir, as you explained, it's marked out in red in this diagram, which is your Earth-centric phase. How much time does this entire phase take, sir? And as per the diagram, we see that the Chandrayaan will be taking 5 elliptical rounds around the Earth.
Each of this elliptical round will be taking approximately 24 hours. So it will be around 5 to 6 days to escape from Earth. Then it's a long journey for 3.4 lakh kilometers. And then when you reach it, so it will take total around approximately 40 days to reach from Earth to Moon for the landing. So the landing will be somewhere around 23rd or 24th August.
Okay, all right, 23rd to 24th of August. And then, of course, we come back to the second phase, sir, which is the lunar transfer phase. It's marked right here once again, viewers. So it comes right here after taking 5 elliptical rounds around the Earth. Then the Chandrayaan goes towards the moon to begin its rounds around the moon. Mr. Mishra, if you can just explain, sir, is this something that happens within a couple of hours, or does this entire trajectory also take a few days?
it's this also a few days operation, because before changing from, though it's a 5 orbits, but each of the orbit may last more number of rotations. So this is you have to first estimate the orbit's exact velocity and measure the orbit characteristics, and then only you decide the optimum position of firing. So you need a, if you have a poor, when you go to the moon, the measurement becomes weaker because the ground antennas and all, because that the measurement distance is so large that the measurement accuracy becomes poorer. So you need to have a more measurements, and they take a certain amount of statistical accuracy, and then accordingly they fire the rockets either at exactly at optimal location.
And Mr. Mishra, how much of this is automated and how much of the process is then under the control of the ISRO once the launch actually does take place?
Okay, it's a completely under control till it reaches 30-kilometer height.
Okay, so completely under the control. So ISRO will be able to assess exactly where the mission is supposed to move around, and we'll just come back to another aspect, sir. Of course, the main part is the moon-centric phase, which is, and this in itself includes 7 phases, as Tapan Mishra explained earlier as well. So this is the first phase, sir, as far as the moon is concerned. Once it comes, it's the insertion into the lunar orbit. Then it begins the maneuvering, the moon-bound maneuvering begins. Then there is the PM and the lunar module separation. What exactly is this, sir, when we say PM and lunar module separation?
Yes, you see that a lunar module is a lander module is a riding on the propulsion mode. The lander is small. It doesn't have a much mass and doesn't have a much power, and plus it is landing on the solar. It is at a southern near South Pole at a 69-degree latitude. It will have also less solar energy to collect the power. So the signal will be feeble. So to transmit that signal to ground, it has to first transmit to the propulsion module. Propulsion module is a relay station that time, and then it sends back to Earth. And then Earth command also goes from Earth to propulsion module and then to lunar mode, then to the lander. So this is all happens. And once a rover comes out, the rover communicates to lander, and then lander in turn communicates to the propulsion module, and from there it communicates to ISRO's center in Bailalu in Bangalore. So this is what this is. These are the multiple relay stations.
Okay. And Mr. Mishra, once the separation happens, then there is something known as the de-boost phase. Then there is a pre-landing phase, the landing phase, and the normal phase for the lander and rover, and the moon-centric normal orbit phase, which, like you had explained earlier, which becomes the last aspect of inserting our lander and rover into a 100-kilometer circular orbit around the moon, after which, of course, it has to make that very crucial landing. So just if you can just explain, you know, when we talk about de-boosting and pre-landing, what exactly does that entail, and how much time is expected, this phase to take?
Yes, say that a de-boost is that if you want to reduce height in the orbit, then you have to reduce the velocity. That means you have to fire thrusters in the opposite directions. So as the velocity reduces, by Kepler's law, it goes to down and down orbit till 30 kilometer. And then after that, the deboost is done in a much faster way, so that it moves at a much lower altitude, and from 6 kilometer onwards, it goes to an autonomous operation. And from 1.5 kilometer, it goes to that optical laser and laser altimeter guidance. And then it reaches the soft lands on the moon. So this process, this is a gradual reduction in velocity. It will take almost a 3/4 of the orbit. You see the diagram. And all that time, that's a 3/4. The lunar orbit is approximately 115 minutes. So
Right.
it will have a 3/4 of the time. That is, once it's removed, it's a detached from the propulsion module. It will take approximately 90 minutes to reach the moon surface. And you see that all the time it is designed such a way, the orbiter, it is just below the orbiter, so that the communication continuously goes through.
Absolutely. So stay on with us, because as you're pointing out, we're also just putting out information about this propulsion module. This is what ISRO has to say, that Chandrayaan 3 viewers consists of an indigenous propulsion module. So what you see, this image that you see right here, is the propulsion module that they're talking about. All of this is inside our rocket. So this is what the rocket is essentially carrying now towards the moon. So this consists of a propulsion module which is at the bottom. At the bottom will be the propulsion module. Then it has the lander module, which you see right here on your screens. The lander is this part which has these, the 4 legs that are coming out, and the rover is essentially inside the lander. It is a smaller, much smaller instrument which is inside the lander, and it will come out once the lander makes a soft landing. It has an objective of developing and demonstrating new technologies required for interplanetary missions. The propulsion module will carry the lander and the rover from the injection orbit till the 100-kilometer lunar orbit. It also carries a polarimetry of habitable planetary Earth, which is also known as SHAPE payload, to study the spectral and polarimetric measurements of Earth from the lunar orbit. The main function of the propulsion module is to carry the LM from the launch vehicle injection orbit till the lander separation. So that was just an explainer that has been put out by ISRO. But of course, I'm sure what interests people most is in fact this indigenously built propulsion module, the lander module, and the rover right here. Absolutely stunning visuals have been put out as well. Very fascinating. Tapan Mishra, before we wrap up this explainer segment, I'd just like to understand from you, we've been, of course, for the past couple of years talking about the soft landing aspects. Why exactly is that so difficult to achieve, where we are trying to attempt it?
Yes, you see that the orbital velocity has to be reduced from almost at 1.67 kilometer per second to almost 2 meter per second when it reaches ground. So while the reduction, because all this reduction has to be done in around 90 minutes of time, and then this reduction, and there is a radar altimeter and all, but when you are landing, you do not know what is inside, because the top surface of lunar surface is a very thin layer of soft soil. It's called a regolith, and below this there is a rocky. What you see from cameras and all, it is only that the top a few micron of the thickness. You really cannot guess what lies below that. There may be a stone, or that can be very deep regolith or a sandy type of thing. If it is a very sandy type of thing, then also you have a problem that you can topple it. If you jump on a totally a big mound of sand, you can topple it. But if there is a rocky thing, there is another danger that suddenly your velocity will be reduced, and in the process, the amount of force will be exerted. It can break the leg. The leg was in Chandrayaan 2 was designed for a landing of a 2 meter per second, and this time it was improved to 3 meter per second. And you may be thinking that 3 meters per second is a low number, but it is not. When a Carl Lewis runs 100 meters, he runs at a 10 meter per second. It's a lightning speed. It will be difficult to track on camera. It is a 1/3 of that speed with which it will be landing, and the whole system should be able to sustain. Because if the legs are broken, then that the rover may not be able to come out. That may be the situation. So we have to protect the legs as much as possible. Maybe slight amount of tilt will be allowed, and there's maybe small damage it can get away with. But if it is a fully broken, then the next stage of experiment that the rover coming out will not be possible. May not be possible. I do not say will not be possible, may not be possible.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.